Devastating rescue: how a maid saved a millionaire's son from a deadly accident at 3 a.m. The clock struck 3 as darkness hung like a heavy curtain over the sprawling mansion. Inside, a deadly secret lurked in the shadows, waiting, watching. The silence shattered, abruptly punctuated by the screech of tires skidding on the wet road outside. A scream echoed through the night, drawing the attention of a young maid going about her nightly chores. Her pulse raced as she raced toward the window, skimming past luxurious chandeliers and polished marble floors that reflected her frantic figure. What she saw made her blood run cold. A sleek black sports car lay crumpled against a tree, smoke curling from beneath the hood. Moonlight painted the scene with ghostly brightness, amplifying the horror of the twisted metal. Inside the car, she caught a glimpse of the millionaire's only son, James, unconscious, blood seeping from a gash on his forehead. Panic flooded her chest. She had to act, and fast. As she sprinted to grab her phone, the phone slipped from her trembling fingers, smashing to the ground. No signal, she cursed under her breath, desperation gripping her heart. She had to save him. She rushed out of the house into the biting cold, the sound of the night wrapping around her like a shroud. Each step felt monumental as her breath clouded in the air before her, reflecting the urgency coursing through her veins. Was this fate? Or was it merely coincidence that she was the one to discover this disaster? Just as she reached the car, she advanced cautiously, her hands shaking at the thought of what lay within. She had never been trained for something like this. What if it was too late? What if he was? Then she saw it. His chest rising and falling, albeit faintly, gave her a glimmer of hope. The faint sound of sirens approached, but it felt like hours, each moment stretching into eternity. Time was slipping away. Before we continue, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. Gathering every ounce of courage, she gently pulled open the crumpled door, the metal screeching in protest, muffling the sound of the world outside. Inside, the car was a mess of chaos, shattered glass and twisted metal surrounding James like twisted vines. The pain in her heart was crushing, but she had no time to dwell on it. She leaned in, her heart pounding against her ribcage as she checked for a pulse. Relief surged through her when she felt it, a faint but steady beat. But that wasn't the end of it. There was a bigger mystery here, a shadow moving in the darkness across the road. Who had caused the accident? Why was he out here at this hour? As headlights swept toward them, illuminating the scene, she realized this was just a rescue. This was the beginning of an unfolding mystery with roots deeper than they could imagine. What had she just stumbled into? Behind her, a figure stood lurking, just out of sight, watching her every move as the echo of police sirens drew near. The air was thick with tension as sirens wailed in the distance, growing louder with each passing second. The maid looked back, her instincts screaming that she was not alone. The figure behind her shifted slightly, a silhouette against the trees. Her heart hitched, every nerve ending alive with fear. She'd come out here to save a life, but now she felt like prey, hunted. James groaned from the driver's seat, pulling her back from the edge of panic. His face was pale, and his breath shallow. She couldn't leave him like this. She reached in further, brushing a strand of hair from his forehead, horrified at the blood caked there. "Wake up, James," she urged, her voice trembling. She needed him to respond. Just a flicker of awareness, a sign he wasn't gone. The headlights of a patrol car broke through the darkness, washing over them in a blinding light. Relief coursed through her like a wave, yet the shadow remained, lurking just beyond the beam. She glanced back again, but the darkness swallowed the figure whole. Who was it? Was it a friend or a foe? as officers rushed toward her, she could see the look of disbelief etched on their faces. What happened? One officer shouted, kneeling beside her. I found him like this. He needs help. She gasped, her hands still clutching the edges of the door. The urgency of her plea rippled through the air. Stay back, miss. Another officer barked, forcing her to step aside. They moved into action, assessing James's condition, calling for paramedics. The chill in the air made her shiver, but it wasn't the cold. It was the gnawing worry propelling through her mind. As they worked on James, her instincts screamed that something was off. How did she get here, at this hour, in this extraordinary mess? Had it really only been moments ago when she was scrubbing floors and polishing silverware in the mansion? The world she knew felt like a distant memory. Then, she spotted movement again, a flash of a dark coat, slipping into the trees. Her heart raced. She turned, but the officers were too preoccupied assessing the wreckage and tending to James's injuries. The shadowy figure, whoever it was, had vanished. She had to know the truth. What had happened here? Was it an accident, or was someone after the millionaire's son? Just as she made up her mind to follow, a piercing scream erupted from the woods, slicing through the night. It was shrill and filled with agony. The officers looked at each other, uncertainty flickering in their eyes. Did you hear that? She barely whispered, but the words slipped from her lips. Everyone stay put. One of the officers ordered, moving cautiously toward the noise. The other secured James and summoned help, but her heart was already ensnared by the unknown. The sounds of the forest twisted, shadows deepening around them. What had she stumbled into? With danger bearing down like a storm cloud, she felt an insatiable pull to uncover the truth, whatever the cost. Before she could think twice, she darted toward the shadows, following the echo of terror, driven by an urgency she didn't fully understand, knowing that what she uncovered might not just change her life but change everything she thought she knew about the world she inhabited. But into that darkness, she couldn't shake the feeling, what if the threat was closer than she dared imagine? The dark trees loomed above her, their branches clawing at the night sky like skeletal fingers. Each rustle of leaves sent a fresh surge of adrenaline coursing through her veins. Why had she chosen to chase after the scream? Her heart thudded fiercely in her chest, pounding against her ribcage like a wild animal desperate to escape. The air was different here, heavy with an eerie silence that wrapped around her like a shroud. She ducked beneath a low branch, glancing over her shoulder to see the flickering lights of the patrol car a safe distance behind. There was a strange kind of safety in that light, but as she ventured deeper into the thicket, it felt quickly diminished. Hello. She called into the void, her voice cracking. The sound echoed back, taunting her. It felt foolish, announcing her presence in the dark, but fear outweighed common sense. Then, another noise, soft sobbing, muffled by the crunch of leaves underfoot. She pivoted direction, her instincts sharpening. It was close. More daring than she had ever been, she pressed forward, guided by the fragile hope that someone might need her help. Each step felt like a rebellion against the rising tide of dread. The last scream lingered in the back of her mind, clawing at her thoughts. What if she uncovered something terrible? The idea sent a shiver down her spine. A glimpse of movement. A flash of white caught her eye from behind a thicket. Her breath hitched, and she edged closer, making an effort to soften her footfalls. She parted the underbrush and peered through. What she saw froze her in place. A girl, maybe no more than 17, knelt on the ground, her auburn hair spilling like fire around her face. Tears streamed down her cheeks, and she clutched something what looked like a bloodied shirt against her chest. Please, don't go. The girl murmured, her voice thick with desperation that it wasn't the kind of scene one could simply walk away from. Hey, it's okay. I'm here to help. The words slipped out before she could consider their weight. The girl looked up, her eyes wide with raw panic, and for a flicker of a moment, the sobbing stopped. Are you hurt? The maid pressed, her voice now barely above a whisper. The young woman shook her head but didn't speak. Then, the wind shifted, carrying a distant rustle that sent both their hearts racing. It was followed by the sound of footsteps crunching through the brush, heavy and deliberate. The girl's eyes darted to the sound, panic flaring anew as she pressed against the ground. "We have to go." The maid hissed, her own instincts screaming that whatever was coming was not friendly. But the girl remained frozen, as though rooted to the ground. Suddenly, a figure broke into the clearing, tall and dark. His silhouette was sharp against the dim light filtering from the patrol car, casting an ominous shadow over them both. "Get away from her!" he shouted, voice echoing like an ominous bell. Fear spiked in the girl's gaze, and in that instant, the maid realized he wasn't just approaching. He was coming to claim. Something shifted in the air as she readied herself to react, unsure if this was an ally or a perilous threat. "Run!" she yelled, and without waiting to see if the girl moved, she lunged toward the figure, feeling a surge of courage push through her fear. The night was thick with uncertainty, and she could only hope she was making the right choice. Because behind the mask of that figure lurked secrets darker than she could imagine. Would she uncover the truth before it was too late? The sudden shout sent chills down her spine. The maid barely had time to brace herself for the figure's advance. She felt the weight of the night pressing down on her, thick and suffocating, as adrenaline flooded her system. "Stay back!" she cried, aware that her voice trembled. She stepped forward, ready to become a shield between the girl and this looming threat. The figure hesitated for a heartbeat, eyes narrowing, but his shadow loomed larger under the dim moonlight. "Get out of here," he snarled, stepping into the clearing. Bristling with anger, he pointed at the scared girl still clinging to her bloodied shirt. She felt the girl's trembling body behind her. "No. She needs help." The urgency in her tone flared as she took another instinctive step toward the stranger. "Help?" he scoffed, the disdain lifting his lips into a sneer. "She's in danger. You both are. Back off." Something sinister marked the man's presence. His muscles coiled as if he was about to pounce, and she flinched, every instinct screaming at her to protect the girl behind her. The shadows seemed to pulse around him, wrapping him in a veil of malevolence. "You don't know what you're doing." She shot back, indignation rising above her fear. She knew that she couldn't back down, not now. Not when a life was at stake. Then, with a sudden rush, the girl surged forward. "I'm not going back with you," she yelled, her voice raw but fierce. Shock rippled through the maid, but the girl's determination sparked a flicker of hope. The man's face flashed with rage, and he lunged. Without thinking, the maid reached out, grabbing the girl's wrist just as the figure barreled toward them. "No. This way." They ducked to the side, trying to slip past him. She had never thought she'd run for her life in the dark, but survival instincts kicked in. Heart racing, she sprinted deeper into the thicket, gauging the terrain ahead through the shadows. "Where are we going?" the girl gasped, stumbling slightly. "Anywhere but here." The determination in her voice masked the terror clawing from her gut. The air was thick with apprehension as they wove through the dense underbrush, every rustle sounding like a nightmare taking form behind them. The girl's hand still felt warm in hers. "You don't understand, he wants to take me back." "Who is he?" The words slipped out as they sprinted onward, branches snapping back into place behind them. She could feel her heart pounding in her throat, desperation pushing her to move faster. The girl hesitated, tears of fear spilling over once more. "He's my brother." A quick glance behind them revealed no one hot on their trail yet, but the weight of the revelation hit the maid like a slap. "Your brother?" "Yes. But he's not right. He thinks he can control me after what happened." Her mind raced, flipping through the implications. Control? What had they stumbled into? Just then, a sharp crack sounded through the tree's branches snapping underfoot. They were not alone. A low growl echoed through the air, more animal than human. Run! She shouted, squeezing the girl's hand tighter as they charged forward. A wave of urgency swallowed them, pushing them further into the shadows of the forest. Why is he like this? The girl choked out, breathless. There was no time to answer. Had it just been a sibling spat, or something more corrupted by their past? The anticipation of danger edged closer, and the weight of the unspoken truths was crushing, but just as they reached a small clearing, drenched in the faint light of the moon, a glowing shape caught her eye. Stumbling, they skidded to a halt. She turned to the girl, panting. What happened? A flicker of recognition jolted the girl's eyes wide open, fear turned to panic once more. No, it can't be. In that moment, standing in the moonlight, they both faced the source of horror they hadn't even begun to understand. Secrets brewed, violence lurked, and the night was still far from over. What awaited them there under the shimmering light? And who would come out unscathed? The moonlight danced over the clearing, revealing a sight that sent a jolt of ice racing through the maid's veins. In front of them, outlined by the glow, stood a strange figure, one that seemed both familiar and haunted. A girl, just slightly older than the one beside her, with hollowed cheeks and wild, disheveled hair that whispered tales of despair. Lila, the older girl, breathed, taking a faltering step forward. You're alive. Lila's expression shifted from shock to something more primal, fear interwoven with recognition. No. You shouldn't be here. He'll find you. What do you mean? The maid demanded, still grasping the younger girl's hand tightly. The questions clawed at her gut, but the urgent need to escape clouded her mind. I came to warn you, Lila said, her voice shaking. You can't trust him. He's changed. He's not the brother you remember. Shadows shifted behind them, and the air crackled with tension. The man's low growl had only just faded when a piercing scream shattered the stillness of the night. The sound sliced through the trees, a gut-wrenching cry that spoke of raw terror. Run! Lila shouted, pushing past fear and sprinting toward the girl. We have to go now. The maid hesitated, her heart beating loudly in her ears. But we can't just leave her. She's telling the truth. The girl's voice quivered. If she's here, it means he's coming. We need to move. Instinct pulled her forward, and they pushed into the darkness, dodging branches that clawed at their clothes like desperate hands. As they ran, the haunting laughter of the brother echoed behind them, mixing with the growls into a chilling symphony of madness. Where do we go? The maid panted, adrenaline surging. Her chest was tight, and she barely managed to focus. We need to find shelter, anything. Lila replied, glancing back at the shadows lurking behind them. The urgency of her words urged them on. Hidden between thick trees, they stumbled upon an old, abandoned cabin. Deteriorating, it sat brooding in the darkness, its windows darkened like sunken eyes watching their approach. We can't stop. He'll track us, the maid insisted, her voice jagged with desperation. This is our only choice. Lila's plea snapped through the escalating tension, forcing the maid to join the others as they dove into the cabin. The door creaked ominously behind them as they hurried inside. The interior was musty, littered with broken furniture and dust clinging to corners like faded memories. They quickly found an area to hide, slipping beneath an old, tattered table that seemed to breathe with the weight of the past. They held their breath, listening, the sounds of the night growing distant as they huddled together, hearts like thunderclaps in their chests. Outside, the low growl continued, inching closer, a predator lurking just out of sight. Why is he after you? The maid whispered, feeling the urgency of the moment closing in. What has he done? Lila's eyes glimmered with unshed tears. He believes I belong to him. After our parents, after the crash, he thought he could control everything. My life, my choices, everything. A sudden roar erupted from the outside, shaking the cabin's fragile frame. The air turned electric with dread. The girl tightened her grip on the maid's arm. He is here. He won't stop until he finds us. The night air was charged with uncertainty. Would they escape? Or was this the end of their fleeting hope? As the growling grew louder, pounding against the structure, the cabin shuddered with impending doom. Stay quiet, the maid urged. If we can just stay hidden. But would it be enough? The night had brought them perilously close to the truth, yet they had no idea what terrible revelation awaited them next. Would their strength outlast the darkness creeping ever closer? The walls of the cabin felt like they were closing in, shadows stretching in the flickering light spilling from the cracks. The maid's heart thudded with each shattering roar outside, the creature's fury palpable. Stay quiet. She hissed, but fear clawed at her throat, making it hard to breathe. Lila's fingers tightened around the young girl's hand. He won't just come in. He'll tear this place apart to find me. Desperation laced her voice, a plea mingled with unacknowledged terror. They could hear the crunch of leaves, the snapping of twigs underfoot. The predator was circling, his growl a low rumble that thrummed in their very bones. A moment of silence stretched ominously, and then a shadow crossed the doorway. Run! Lila whispered fiercely, her eyes locked on the girl. If he finds us, there's no way we can escape. Before the maid could question how they could possibly outrun something lurking in the darkness, the scream of wood splintering splashed through the quiet. A great force slammed against the door. It exploded inward, wood shards flying. The brother stood there, drenched in moonlight, his face twisted into a grotesque mix of rage and obsession. Lila! He bellowed, his voice dripped with madness. You can't run from me. The maze of fear clutched the maid's chest. She grabbed Lila and the younger girl, urging them toward the back of the cabin. We have to find another way out. As they stumbled back into the musty gloom, the brother forced his way in, and everything dimmed under the weight of panic. The cabin felt alive with tremors of his wrath. They raced past sagging furniture and moth-eaten curtains, scanning frantically for an exit, desperately hoping their legs would carry them fast enough. Why can't you see? Lila cried, shaking with distress. You can't control me. You don't own me. The defiance in her voice twisted heavily in the air. With a low hiss, her brother lunged forward, eyes wild with fury, and the maid felt her stomach churn. Horror gripped her heart. If Lila wouldn't back down, would she pay the ultimate price? Now! The maid urged, shoving her forward as they threw open a rickety back door, sending creaks echoing into the night. They spilled out into the darkness just as the brother's voice ripped through the air behind them. Lila! Come back! They sprinted into the trees, the cold night air stinging their skin. Branches whipped them, and the unyielding darkness seemed to close around them like a hungry beast. The maid felt the weight of dread pushing her down, but adrenaline carried them forward. Which way? The young girl panted, her breath hitching. Anywhere but here. Lila screamed, her voice edged with panic. We need to put distance between us. As they dashed deeper into the woods, the haunting echoes of the brother's growls faded, but the threat lingered just beyond the brush, ready to pounce. Each step felt heavy, the gnawing fear settling in their bellies like lead. Suddenly, Lila stumbled, her foot catching on a root. She fell hard against the cold ground, and the maid's instinct kicked in to help her up. We have to keep moving. But Lila froze, her face pale and stricken with recognition. Wait, we should hide. Before the maid could argue, Lila motioned towards a thicket of bushes ahead. The three of them ducked low, pressing themselves against the damp earth, breathless. The sounds around them changed. The growling had stopped, replaced by an unnatural silence. Then, a new sound cut through the stillness, the crunch of footsteps approaching, deliberate and heavy. The maid squinted through the foliage, her heart racing. Who was coming? Hope swelled within her as a new figure emerged from the shadows, a silhouette just as ominous as the brother's but distinctly different. Get ready, Lila whispered, her eyes wide with realization and fear. We might have company. What other secrets would spill into the night ahead? As they huddled in silence, the maid could barely fathom what else was lurking in the dark. Would help arrive in time? Or had they stumbled into another trap altogether? The moment felt frozen in time. Furtive breaths mingled with the weight of anticipation as the figure drew nearer, the shadows shifting around them. The maid's heart thundered in her chest, drowning out the whispers of the wind. Was this new presence a savior or a harbinger of greater terror? "Stay low," she urged, her voice barely a whisper. The younger girl's wide eyes gleamed with fear, and Lila clutched her hand tighter, her earlier defiance now tinged with uncertainty. The silhouette stepped into the moonlight, a tall man, his features obscured by the dark. For a heartbeat, it felt like he was just an echo of their fears, ready to consume whatever hope remained in the night. "Talia?" he called out, his voice deep but oddly familiar. The maid held her breath, listening intently. "Lila, I know you're out there. I can help you." "Do you know him?" the maid asked, keeping her voice low. "No." Lila's whisper faltered, and the maid could see the conflict wrestling within her. The instinct to hide was warring against the desire for help. "Don't trust him," she finally murmured, uncertainty draping tightly around Lila's shoulders. The man continued, desperation cracking through his calm demeanor. "I'm not here to hurt you. I'm trying to help you. Your brother is out of control." A movement in the underbrush jerked the maid's head in the direction of the new sound. The brother was closing in, a barely contained storm of rage. She could sense it in the atmosphere, the very air thick with his fury. "Lila. I'm coming for you." His voice was cold and vicious, a promise of pain. "Go." the maid hissed. "Don't wait for him." Before Lila could move, the man took a step forward, urgency mingling with a hint of determination. "We can't stay here. Trust me, follow me." Lila hesitated for a heartbeat longer before the electric pulse of fear pushed her into motion. "We have to run," she cried, pulling the younger girl into a sprint, the maid following closely behind. As they burst from the thicket, the chilling howl of wind following them, they felt the weight of impending doom. The shadows clung to them, but the man was right there, guiding them. "This way!" he shouted, pointing toward a faint glimmer in the distance. Suddenly, the brother's voice erupted from the darkness. "Lila!" he belted, infusing the name with a mixture of longing and possession that sent chills down the maid's spine. The bushes behind them shook violently, and an unseen force shattered the tranquil silence. It was a momentary surge, and with it came a visceral dread that clawed at the edges of their minds. "We need to hurry," the man urged, his voice rising above the cacophony. He glanced back, tension radiating from him. The way he looked at them, it felt like he was holding back a storm. If he catches up before he finished, a large shape lunged from the darkness, and the visage of the brother split the night with a primal growl. "Run!" the maid screamed, and adrenaline ignited every sense. They darted through the underbrush, the world around them melding into a blur of shadows and shapes. Each footfall felt like it could be their last. The brother's footsteps thudded behind them, echoing with manic determination, a terrifying reminder that he was not far behind. As they reached the edge of a clearing, Lila turned back, the glow of fear still swirling in her eyes. "What is he?" the maid didn't let her finish. "Keep moving." The air grew thick with the sense of danger, and the uncertainty of whom to trust gnawed at the edges of her mind, but just as they neared the tree line on the other side, the brother's figure surged forward, blocking their escape. "You think you can just run from me?" His laughter, tinged with madness, echoed through the night. "Don't look back," the man shouted, but fear pulled at Lila's gaze. The battle between safety and loyalty raged within her, time stretched, heartbeats thundering as decisions crystallized. But the chilling question lingered: who could emerge from the dark? The brother? Or something worse? In that moment of hesitation, shadows danced, stark with uncertainty, as another figure flitted at the edge of vision, hidden for the moment. Was it a friend? A foe? Nothing was certain, and danger loomed ahead. What lay beyond that tree line could mean salvation or doom. And the night was just beginning to reveal its secrets. The heartbeat in Lila's ears pulsed like a drumbeat of chaos, muffled yet deafening. Shadows swirled around her, the weight of fear dragging her down. The brother, a figure of fury and madness, stood tall in the moonlight, laughter spilling from his lips like venom. "Lila, come to me." He beckoned, his voice a haunting mix of command and desperation. "I'm not angry, just worried. We can be a family again." "No." Lila gasped, each syllable falling from her mouth like stones, heavy and stony against her resolve. She didn't want to look at him, yet she couldn't tear her gaze away. The brother's eyes gleamed with determination, a wild, untamed fire that promised both safety and destruction. "Move!" the man shouted again. He pulled Lila's hand, his grip a lifeline. The maid instinctively looked back, her heart lurching. It felt wrong to flee, to abandon the only family she had known. But the truth was a bitter taste in her mouth. He wasn't the same brother she once loved. A sudden rustle from the underbrush sent a jolt through the air, a stark reminder of the danger closing in. "We have to get out," the man urged, his urgency growing palpable. "Trust me." With one last, shattering glance, Lila tore herself away from her brother, summoning every ounce of strength to move forward. The maid felt the innocence of childhood slip through her fingers like sand. As the three of them dashed into the thicket, the man led them deeper into the woods. Branches scraped against their skin, each step spelling deeper entanglement in a web of darkness. The cold air bit at their faces, and the ground uneven beneath their feet became treacherous terrain. "Do you know where we're going?" Lila called out, breathless. Panic nipped at her heels, mixing with the rising fear that tinged the air with dread. "Yes," he replied, his voice steady but tinged with urgency. He pushed ahead, leading them toward a patch of impenetrable darkness, beyond which she could sense something different, something alive, but the echoes of the brothers' laughter chased them, a hollow but commanding chant that seemed to resonate with the very earth beneath them. "You can't escape me, Lila. I always find you." Spurred onward, Lila felt a surge of anger crashing through her veins. "You don't own me." A flicker of defiance ignited within her, filling her with purpose. They moved as one, Lila, the maid, and the man, a unit against the malice looming behind them. Their path twisted unexpectedly, leading them to an old, abandoned shed at the edge of the clearing. The moonlight poured through broken windows, spilling silvery light onto the weathered floorboards, illuminating a path through despair. "Here." The man thrust his arm towards the shed. "We can hide." Without a second thought, Lila ducked inside, pulling the younger girl behind her, the maid stepping in right after. Darkness enveloped them, the damp air clinging to their skin, wrapping them in a suffocating embrace. "Will he find us?" The younger girl whimpered, fear lacing her trembling voice. The man held a finger to his lips, quieting them all. They huddled close together, hearts racing as they waited in the silence. The dark corners of the shed swallowed their whispers, but outside, the brothers' footsteps grew louder. "We can't stay in here too long," the man whispered urgently. "If he finds us," his voice trailed off, but the unspoken threat hung heavily in the air like a dark cloud. Suddenly, a creak reverberated through the structure. A shadow split the entrance as the brother's silhouette loomed, monstrous and vengeful. "I know you're in there," he shouted. "Come out and face me, Lila. I can help you if you just let me." The maid's heart dropped. Hope and terror collided inside her, but amid it all, a thought flickered in her mind. Was there a way to turn the tide back in their favor? "Be quiet," the man urged, his voice low and intense. "Let me handle this." Lila's breath caught in her throat. What would he do? Was he the savior he claimed to be, or yet another thread in the tangled web of doom? The brother's voice boomed again, sharper now, slicing through the night. "You think hiding will save you? I'm coming in." And with that, a new wave of fear crashed over them. Would they emerge from this darkness alive? Or was this just the prelude to their demise? The choices they would make next could either lead them to freedom or deeper peril. The air in the shed was thick with tension, an almost palpable force that made Lila's skin prickle. Every second felt like an eternity, each delicate breath a reminder of the imminent danger lurking just outside. She pressed closer to the man, her heart pounding in sync with the footsteps that crunched ominously in the underbrush. Lila. The brother's voice slithered through the cracks in the shed, smooth and taunting. You know I can't let you go. You belong with me. That sinister tone wrapped around her throat like a noose, suffocating her resolve. Ignoring the knot of fear in her stomach, she steeled herself. I want to go back to him, she whispered, more to herself than anyone else, rallying the fading remnants of her courage. He can't mean it, the younger girl muttered, her wide, terrified eyes searching Lila's face for reassurance. Can he? Before Lila could respond, the man turned to them, his brow furrowing deeply. Stay quiet. Don't move. I'll keep you safe, he promised, though it felt like the weight of the world rested on his shoulders. His clenched fists revealed a mix of determination and dread as Lila watched him, her heart aching for both of them. A sudden bang jolted the air as the brother kicked at the door, sending a shudder through the old wood. You think hiding in there is going to save you? You can hide, but I will always find you. The door rattled against its hinges, instilling a primal terror in Lila's heart. Once again, doubt clawed at her mind. Would the man rise to the occasion, or were they simply waiting for their doom to arrive? Just give me a moment, he urged under his breath, glancing around the dark confines of the shed as if contemplating their sparse surroundings for an escape plan. Lila could see the wheels turning in his mind. Out of nowhere, an idea sparked. She tapped him gently, hoping to make him aware. What if we made a distraction? His eyes widened slightly, the gears of understanding clicking into place. What do you have in mind? Lila scanned around the shed, her mind racing, searching for anything that could divert her brother long enough for them to escape. Beside a moss-covered wall, she spotted an old wooden crate piled high with rusted tools. If we can throw something outside, she began, her voice trembling but hopeful. Let us do it. He encouraged, the fire of resolve igniting in his eyes. As they crept over to the crate, ears trained to the threatening noises outside, they quickly sorted through the contents. Lila grabbed a heavy hammer while the man picked up a pair of wrenches. He cast a cautious glance at the door, the urgency growing in his expression. On the count of 3, he whispered. Okay. Lila tightened her grip on the hammer, ready to act. 1, 2. Before he could say 3, Lila hurled the hammer toward the back wall with all her might. The metal clanged heavily, echoing through the stillness of the forest. Go. Now. He shouted as he followed suit with the wrenches, the 2 thuds reverberating tantalizingly far to their right. A moment of silence held the air. Lila's heart raced as she could see the foliage stir at the disturbance and hear her brother's irate growl peel away from their location. What was that? Quick. The man grabbed Lila's hand, pulling her towards the back of the shed. They moved like shadows, slipping quietly behind a stack of rotten crates as a faint sound of heavy footsteps rushed toward the noise they had created. The growing cacophony pulled them closer to freedom, but Lila sensed they had only bought themselves a fleeting moment. We need to run. I know. He answered urgently, tightening his hold once again. But before they could dart away, the door flew open with a force that sent splinters flying into the darkness. Lila! Her brother roared, his face twisted in rage. This was no longer just a chase. It was a showdown, a battle for her freedom. The man turned to Lila, his eyes pleading for her to trust him. Stay close. With hearts pounding and fear igniting their every move, Lila understood. The time to choose had arrived. Would they stand and fight, or would they risk everything to escape? As each second ticked away and tension gripped their bodies, they faced the reality of a desperate choice up against the darkness within and the terror awaiting them without. The question now lingered: would they be able to overcome, or would the brother's madness consume them all? The cabin vibrated with energy. Shadows clung to every corner as Lila, the maid, and the younger girl stood frozen, their hearts beating like war drums. The brother's voice called out, a mixture of chaos and desperation that filled the night air. "I know you're in there. Come out." He pounded the ground, the sound a thunderous promise of chaos. "Stay quiet." The man whispered urgently, eyes darting around for any way to escape. The maid felt the tension rising, panic bubbling under her skin. Then, the door shuddered with a violent force, shaking their hiding place. A splintering crack sent jolts of fear through them. "Lila. I just want you back. You don't understand." His voice was near frantic, echoing with a twisted sense of love, mingling with madness. Lila's breath caught, fear flooding her as the memories of better days with her brother flickered in her mind, but they were quickly overshadowed by the grim reality of his transformation. He's not the same. She reminded herself, heart racing. With her pulse racing, she turned to the man. "What do we do? We can't let him find us. Trust me. When I say move, we move," he replied, urgency lacing his voice heavier than a lead weight. The air felt charged with the weight of the moment, every second stretching into eternity. The door creaked ominously, tilting inward, and the brother's silhouette loomed closer, a dark specter ready to reclaim his quarry. "Lila!" He shouted again, desperation in his voice. "Stop this." Lila's eyes widened, dread curling through her stomach. "We can't hold back any longer. We have to fight." Just then, a sharp crack sounded from the back of the shed. There was no time. "Now!" The man shouted, his voice cracking through the atmosphere like a whip. They all surged forward, adrenaline ignited by fear, propelling them into motion. Lila raced toward the side door, followed closely by the maid and the young girl, whose eyes brimmed with tears but hardened with determination. The fear that had paralyzed them morphed into a powerful urge to escape the clutches of madness lurking behind them. As they burst through the door, the frigid air sliced against their skin and their feet pounded against the ground, fleeing as fast as they could. "Keep moving." The man called back, his commanding presence a steady force in the chaos. The brother's enraged voice echoed behind them, a frenzied storm threatening to swallow them whole. "I'll find you. You belong to me, Lila." His voice clawed at her resolve, but she refused to look back. With each step, strength replaced fear, with each breath, doubt faded into the night. As they plunged into the woods, the trees seemed to close in around them, the dark whispering of the wind mingling with their frantic footsteps. "This way." The man urged, steering them away from the taunting echoes of the brother's rage. Lila could feel the icy grip of panic tighten but also sensed the warmth of freedom waiting just outside the darkness. "Where are we going?" The younger girl panted, glancing around with wide, frightened eyes. "Anywhere." Lila shouted back, her voice breaking the suffocating silence. "Just away from him." Their legs pumped, hearts thundering, until the rugged terrain began to slope downwards. The moon dipped low, casting a silvery hue on an old pathway winding through the woods. "We need to find refuge." The man urged again, his urgency pressing against them like a heavy weight. Finally, at the end of a breathless sprint, they skidded into a clearing, the moonlight illuminating a small, hidden cottage nestled between the trees. It looked abandoned but promised safety in the face of chaos. "Quick, inside!" the man ordered, and they dove through the door, slamming it shut behind them, but the brother's voice could still be heard faintly through the woods, a haunting reminder of the danger still very much alive. Lila felt raw, heart racing. In the dim light of the cottage, she turned to face the others. Who was he? What has happened to him? The man sighed, eyes clouded with emotion. "He lost everything after the accident, our parents. He couldn't cope, so he twisted his love into obsession. He thinks he owns you, Lila." "Then we need to stop him," she replied, conviction burning brightly within her. "He can't control me." The man shifted closer, determination renewing in his gaze. If we're going to end this, we need to be smart and quick. He won. Stop. The maid nodded, her heart swelling with unexpected hope. We'll do this together. We can't let his madness claim another life. Hours stretched as they devised their plan, each heartbeat echoing into the silence of the night. They knew they had to confront the brother. The truth had to emerge. As dawn broke the horizon, a soft light filtered through the windows, washing the room in warm hues, and it ignited a fierce sense of purpose. "Lila, are you ready?" the man asked, determination etched into every line of his face. She took a breath, resolved. "Yes, not the brother I remember. We will stop this. For good." As they steeled themselves to face what lay ahead, the air thick with anticipation, they knew it was time. Time to reclaim freedom, time to break the chains that bound them all. With one last look at one another, they moved toward that door, ready to face the brother and finally confront the dark truth head-on. The shadows were waiting, but they were no longer afraid. They were ready to fight. Now it's your moment to take action. Subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss our next exclusive stories. This is the moment to show your support. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.